Hello.
Hi, we're not important. How are you guys? My name's Jamie.
My name's Caitlin. I guess we can use that other microphone until we figure it out. We're figuring this out. So, we are the moderators. We're
still wearing my jacket.
yeah, everything's adorable. So we're gonna bring up the panel. So, round of applause for Emma Seligman.
So I was just talking with Rachel in the scared hallway back there about how, you guys didn't really get to do a proper press tour because of all the strikes. So we can ask you basically anything. So we would like to start with pranks on the set. Yes or no?
Total prankaholics. We are just pranking each other off all day long. No, first of all, it's so true. We haven't got to do this all together. Even just this whole line of people, I'm like, oh my god. And it's incredible. We didn't really prank each other, but I would say Marshawn was always throwing a football, and he would try to teach us how to throw a football. Obviously couldn't, so it's and he's giving us the easiest passes. It's hitting me in the face. I'm like, yes, one more time. So I don't know if that's pranking, but I would say that we laughed. Unless everyone was pranking me and I didn't know. That was the prank. But yeah, would you say there was any prank? No. We were super serious. Is it true?
Okay, so a light football assault, that's a prank, basically. Okay, so because you two work together so much, I guess whenever I see a studio comedy, I want to know what the studio notes were. Were there jokes that you got pushback from the studio? Is there anything that didn't make it in? Was there anything that was difficult to get in? Was there anything you had to force over executives' heads?
I think that the jokes that we would think they would want to cut, they actually pushed us to keep. When I felt do we need the last joke with the kid and the bomb? And Alana, the head of the studio, was
yes,
you need it.
Absolutely necessary. You gotta have it.
I feel their notes were deepening the characters, and in some acts I think that really helped, and then in a lot of ways it was what's Tim's backstory? What's he been through? What town is he from? I don't know.
I would say the only thing that got cut, if you want to talk about the opening, got cut after, so we did shoot it. There was this opening scene where PJ and Josie were at this camp for girls who were overly horny. And it starts with them masturbating, and then Josie falls out of the bunk bed, she breaks her arm. And that's sort of where the Jewy rumor comes from. But it was just like really weird. Sometimes in your head, like, of course, a camp for overly horny girls, and then it was just kind of, I think, a little confusing for audiences where they were, wait, is this the world? Is the other world? Like, what are the rules of the movie? And so we ended up having to take that out.
So there is like horny camp footage on the
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I guess going off of that, because you're given us to sort of like build out the inner world of each character for Rachel and Havana, how did you sort of, I mean, Rachel, you wrote the character. Havana, how did you sort of build out this character that is a high school cheerleader, but also there's like so much more going on than the high school cheerleader is normally given?
Well, I think it's really in the script. Emma and Rachel wrote something pretty spectacular to start with, so it wasn't that hard to build on top of it. But I also think Emma was very helpful in that process. I feel like we had a meeting early on where I was like, okay, so this is absurd, and how do we sort of keep it absurd and also make sure that Isabel has like the heart and the arc that she needs to, and just trying to sort of walk that line together. I think it was sort of like, we'd do a take and then I would go to Emma and be like, did we walk the line? And she'd be like, the line was walked. And then we'd walk back. So I feel like it was sort of a constant process of trying to deepen or sort of fill her out. And we learned a lot along the way too. Yeah. I gave a really serious answer. But maybe I can move down.
I have a question for Eunice. So, a lot of the jokes in this movie are made at the expense of the characters' costumes, and then also there's just so much humor. Just or maybe I'm just too old and I don't understand Gen Z fashion. But I guess the question is, how do you make the wardrobe of an uncool character aspirational? And we just have no idea how that's done. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really easy to design for Rachel and Io, I mean, Kaya and Havana as well, but for them specifically, because everything they wear, even though it's innately funny, they wear it in their own way. So it's kind of, they just put their own swagger in it, and it's funny, but it also suits them in a strange way. So, for example, the rugby shirts was a total accident that happened in the fittings. But I have just found a smattering of rugby shirts all over these thrift stores. And I was like, what's going on? I'm just gonna grab them. And we had so many in the fittings. I just tried, I don't know, how many did you try on, Rachel? Like 7 of them?
Yeah. And they're like, it's navy, this one's blue.
Right. And this one has a little green.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they wore it so, I don't know, like they really owned it, and it's like really reserved for waspy white men, and really, we took it back to the lesbians, you know?
I mean, everyone, I don't know, it's like it is the hardest thing in the world, but you know it when you see it, when a loser, you want their clothes. You've done that for the entirety of your year.
Well, thank you.
I'm curious, Emma and also Maria, when you're staging these fight scenes where they're fucking crazy, like you're working with 50 times the budget you've ever worked with, how did the two of you go about like building out those scenes? What were you looking at? What were you inspired by? Like, I just want to know how the fight scene came together, because I've watched it a million times.
Well, I think it started with watching a lot of references, and we really took most of our inspiration from Edgar Wright movies. So we would just watch Scott Pilgrim, and Maria kept on bringing in World's End because that's an ensemble, and we were like, how can we create like mini little fights within these big overall fight sequences, and how can we create a style that's funny, because we're still in a comedy, but also is slick, and how can also we track the evolution of the girls' skills so that they're believably really bad at the beginning, and then they get good by the end, but they're still not like professional stunt people. So there was a lot to it, but I think we spent the most amount of time in prep, Maria and I, doing those sequences. Like I want to say 75% of our shot listing time went there. And we took our stunt coordinator, Devin, and the doubles like onto the field, and Maria would film these like little mini fights with the shots that we had come up with. And Maria was so helpful because I would be like, okay, and then I want him to punch back, and then her to kick him back, and then Maria would be like, wait, okay, but where are the cheerleaders right now? And I was like, who cares? We're doing a fight. And she was like, okay, but we need to know, like, contextually, like, what is going on across the whole football field. And I was like, no, we don't. Like, it's going to be right here with these two, where it's bloody. And Maria was so good at mapping it all out. And I mean, yeah, to get technical, we had like a board and like little like Lego people we would move around.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I'd add to that is that when we started going from references to actually trying to map it out, I feel like we were still, you know, it's in the script, it says like the cheerleaders beat up the football players, right? So it's like there's in some way so little to work with in that moment, and I feel like that transition, we were like, okay, how do we actually map this out narratively? So we went through and there's like photos with post-it notes all over the wall, but it's like the story of the fight, basically. So we started there, and we started with like, okay, we need Rachel to be kind of slowly kicking ass at the beginning, and then the guy is like kind of winning, and then she takes a hit. So it really started like with the emotional beats we were trying to hit, and then we were able to plug in like the cool shit that we thought of.
I mean, Maria, I'm so curious about, I feel like the cinematography of comedy movies is very rarely like really asked about in the way that it should be. Like, what were you watching to, because the movie, like, it feels like, I don't know how to properly say it, but like, it feels like the camera is very much in on the joke at every moment in the movie. You're so present the whole time. How do you sort of prepare to shoot a comedy versus anything else, versus drama versus commercial, whatever?
Thank you for saying that, because my life's work will be to make comedy like taken as high art, because I really think I'm really interested in like, I love comedy. I grew up loving comedy, and it's I think a way you can engage with the material that's like entertaining, and why can't that be meaningful? And I think there's just as much like depth in comedy, and so something I love about working with Emma is when we go through references, you know, she's not pretentious about like where we're pulling from, so we're pulling from anywhere that has given us an emotional reaction. And sometimes that was Anchorman or Zoolander, and I think, yeah, like I think I got into storytelling through comedy because it was like the presentation of a joke that made it funny to me. I watched Austin Powers like too young, and I think that really affected me.
Feel that.
Yeah. So I guess I would just say that like we went through a lot of references to try to find the tone, because that was particularly tricky in this. And I think once we figured out like where the satire was, that helped us figure out like the point of view, I guess, of the camera.
That's amazing. I guess in going back to the fight scenes, Rachel and Savannah, I mean, I'm just like very interested in what, did you have to go to fight camp? Like, what, did you have to fight camp is the question.
Yeah.
We did. And that was the first thing too, where it was
That was
like,
the bonding ritual.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, go into this big warehouse
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of New Orleans.
Dusty.
So gross, and push each other on the floor.
Actually, yeah, onto a huge mat, and you feel really silly.
Yeah.
But it's very bonding.
It's very bonding. It reminded me of gym class a little, where Devin, our stunt coordinator, would be like, she like opens, we sit in a circle, she's like, all right, girls. And then she looks at all of us, starts tearing up immediately. She's like, I've never been in a room where everyone I'm training and all the stunt coordinators are women. And we're like,
And then we're tearing up.
and then she goes, okay, enough. She's like, get up. And it was like we would clean the mats at the end of the day.
Yeah.
She'd be like, clean the mats. And we were like, yes. And it really was supportive because it was like, it's very small in the beginning where you're just like pushing each other on the ground and then you work up. But we would all like clap and be supportive of each other.
I feel like the maths is such a big visual for me because it feels like when you're 5 and you have those like foam obstacle courses you build in gym class, you know what I mean? And we would be like 5 years old and be like, great job, Rachel, like she really fell well, you sold that one. It was very sweet and supportive.
Yeah, I think it was one of my favorite parts of it. Really like let us into the show.
Also, I think the access or aggression there. Like you're so nervous going into first day and the shoot is looming and you're like, I don't know if I know what I'm doing yet. And then you're in this big space where you get to sort of expend a lot of stress and anxiety and punch things and, you know.
I have a question for Allison. How did this project come to you? And I mean, because it's such a subversive, wild script, and so how did it come to you? What drew you to the script? Tell us about your journey with that.
Yeah, so I had seen Shiva Baby. I saw Shiva Baby and just was like, I loved it so much, and was like, I have to meet this director. Who is she? And so I zoomed with Emma. And we had a great Zoom and totally kind of got along. At the end of it, asked her kind of like what else she was doing. And she was like, I wrote this like crazy gay high school Fight Club movie with my friend Rachel. Like, do you want to read it? And I was like, yes, definitely. Send it to me. And I had sort of been following Rachel on Twitter at the time. And was like, she's fucking hilarious. And I read the script that night. It was just like honestly like one of the funniest, smartest, most like distinct things I had ever read, and I just totally fell in love with it. And you know, I think maybe emailed her the next morning and was like, I love this, like we need to produce this, you know, how can we kind of, you know, how can we get it done? And then yeah, and then we came on board. Apparently everyone else passed.
I was just gonna say, this is Allison's very elegant way of telling the story. Meanwhile, I was like, this is COVID, deep COVID. Cut to me and Emma, each in our respective parents' basements, so alone, depressed. And it's like, no one can, we did like a whole round of generals in LA right before COVID, and everyone was like, that sounds amazing, send it to us. Everyone passed. Everyone was like, so interesting, we'll never do it. And then it's like, all of a sudden in the middle of COVID, Emma calls me and is like, I think this woman that I just met with wants to produce our movie. And I was like, what? And it was crazy because like, Lady Gaga, 1 in 100. Like, it's literally 1 in 100. And yes. So anyways, we're so grateful.
To speak to the nature of the script a little bit more, this is one of the very few sex comedies featuring women and especially queer women. So I'm just curious in the writing process of this, what was your vision as far as like adhering to some of the like kind of familiar high school, teen sex romp tropes, but also subverting them, and were you drawing inspiration from any particular movies, and which I don't know what the rest of my question is. Hopefully something in your useful.
We got the vibe. Do you want to go?
Yeah. I think there were the obvious like teen sex comedies like Superbad and American Pie, and more. And I think though that Rachel showed me Wet Hot American Summer pretty early on, and that became sort of a touchstone of just how crazy can our movie be, and how much does it not need to make sense. So we pulled from that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We didn't think too hard about what's going to make these characters different because they're queer. We just wanted to make it funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say there were some things that were like a reference that I didn't even know was a reference. Like years later, people would be like, "This is a reference to this," and I'm like,
Porkies.
Porkies? Who's seen Porkies? Okay, big Porkies crowd. Never seen Porkies in my damn life. It's like my dad sees it, he's like, "Now this is Porkies today." It's like every day we get told we're Porkies, I'm like, I gotta see this. But, so I think we were just trying to make each other laugh. Like we were just trying to have fun and like, and I think also something that came up earlier on, like, I think, like, writing queer stories, like, there was a version earlier on where we felt the need to, like, say that it was gay. Like, I feel like there was an opening scene and explain everyone's sexuality, and then we were like, we don't want to have to do that, and it's like, it's just such a, no one wants to have to watch the movie and go, like, because it's not for the people who need it to be explained to them, and some of those people, by the way, turns out they can watch a movie and learn from context clues, just like the rest of us, so we just, like, I think tried to make it, like, give ourselves free reign in this, like, world that we created.
And then the two of you are collaborating on, like, 3 or 4 different levels as you're making this movie, because you're the star of the movie, you're directing it, you're both producers, you're both writers. How do you
Friends.
Yeah, so is the answer just your friends? Is that how you manage all 5,000 of those roles at once together? How does that work?
There we are. I think honesty.
So much radical honesty.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know, no, truly though, we're able to be like, I think with writing especially, like, we got to a point where it was really easy for us to be like, what about this? And the other one would be like, no, I don't think so. And when you're first working, I don't know, sometimes with another woman, you can do the thing where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna have a suggestion for that, but totally don't listen to me, and,
Oh, no, that's fine, yeah, sure, no.
Yeah. And I think we got to a point where we got comfortable with each other, and we were making show while we were writing bottoms. I don't know, it just kind of felt like one kind of big, it felt really natural and organic.
Yeah, and I think we know each other, like, deeper after every movie. Like, I feel like doing Shiva Baby, and then the writing process, and then making this, like, I feel like it's, you're going in with some, like, I trust Emma, and love you so much, and like, I just feel like, even if something goes wrong on set, like, not every day is like, you know, besties, like, there's some days where it's like, we're gonna lose it, like, you know, like, I think there's, or just days that are so stressful, like, we shot the finale scene overnight, over the course of like 2 weeks, and we basically got like hit by, Havana can speak to this too.
Hello.
Locust storms.
Locust storms, flooding.
Flooding.
It was biblical.
It was so biblical.
It was lightning, storms, Kaya, the tallest person around, her hair standing on end in the middle of the field. We were like, you're gonna die.
No,
you're gonna die.
die.
Yeah.
It was just stressful, and it's like you come from a day like that, and you're like, it's, you know, but you know you're like, I love you no matter what.
There was a lot of nights in my hotel room after a long day where I just cried to Rachel. And I was just like, this is hard. And she was like, snap out of it. We're making our dreams. But I think that we're
making our dreams.
And it's nice, it's so helpful though to have someone who works in so many capacities with you when you're the director, writer, director, producer, whatever, because when I get tired, like when I get exhausted, Rachel would come in and like lift me up and support me. And when we were done the edit and then we were going into South by, it was like, I feel like Rachel was like, okay girls, like wake up, like
Time to get in play
yeah. I don't know, it feels really like reciprocal.
That's so great. I am so, like, because having seen Shiva Baby and seeing Buzz, I know the production has to have been crazy different because you're working within a studio system now, the budget is bigger, there's so many more people involved, but it still feels so very much your movie and your style. Like, how did you navigate that adjustment for like scaling up that steep?
I think I was just kind of thrown in, and what I took to be really helpful was like my core collaborators, which on this were all the people on the stage, but coming from Shiva, it was really Rachel and Maria, like especially in prep, and communicating as much as I could to the people who I knew spoke my language and could help me achieve that. I'd never been on a budget, like a movie of this size ever in any other role. So Maria was hugely instrumental in helping sort of take my vision and apply it on sort of an actual, like a practical level of how will this be achieved. And then everyone sort of joined in the process. But thankfully we had a really supportive studio, like Alana and the incredible women at Orion, like really, they allowed me to like make my vision come true. But yeah, like one of our other producers said thanks. Like I remember her saying like there's no way to learn how to make movies other than to just make movies. And every day was like a new hazing experience. But it was like there was no other way to do it. I just had to sort of pick it up along the way and figure it out. I just want to plug too that like Emma's taste I think is so specific, and I think she has a way of sticking to her taste that like really comes through. But also she, as a first time like studio director, fought so hard for me to be brought on with her because the studio would take a chance on like one person but not two. And I had not done stunts, I had not done a budget that size, and she really put her foot down about that, and obviously I think it paid off just because I was like, I'm just watching, you know, people who are working with you for the first time are not necessarily telling you the truth, or not because they're trying to like hide something, but because they don't want to look bad at their job, and they don't want to like to your point about radical honesty, it's like having people there who are gonna tell you what's up or like can really fight for you is so invaluable, and it's like it's not often valued by studios because you can't put like a monetary value on it. And I think I've just seen so many directors get told, well, you can't bring your people with you or whatever, and I just like think it's so amazing that she did.
I feel like that's very nice of Maria to say, and I feel like I almost did this to a fault where I just kept on being like, I don't know anything, like to everyone, including our AT, including Allison, including our line producer. I was just like, you're gonna have to hold my hand because I have no idea what's going on, and I think I said that like too many times to the point where people probably stopped trusting me that I could correct. But I did feel like I needed Maria and Rachel, and then eventually got comfortable enough to do that with everyone, to be able to like have those honest conversations about like what does this mean and what does this person do, and why is this happening this way, etc.
I think my last question, it starts as a compliment and ends as a question. The first part is, I just want to commend everyone here for making one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It is so laden with jokes, and it comes from every source. It comes from the direction and the writing and dialogue. It also comes from cinematography choices, you know, the camera, a quick pan or something like that. It comes from performance choices. It comes from costume choices. I'm curious just what everyone's favorite joke in the movie is. Sorry. Was everybody on the spot?
I feel so juvenile saying this, but the mascot.
I was gonna say maybe the penis.
That was
We
pretty
used
cool.
to feature him more, but he would make me laugh. I would like be so stressed in the middle of the day, like shooting, and I would just catch whoever was wearing that costume that day, just like sitting there in the corner. Like for anyone who hasn't seen it or hasn't seen it enough times the mascot has a giant penis.
Huge.
And I need to shout out Eunice because we had like, the two of us had a long, probably like an hour, 2 hour long conversation about the mascot costume. And then Nate, our production designer, also joined in that at some point. And then we had a separate conversation, and you guys were like, what's the size of the penis? Like, is it furry or like, what about the size of the balls?
Is it a human penis or is it a dog penis? What does this penis look like?
And then we were showing all the options. I was like, well, I want the eyes to be glassy. And the shoes that he was wearing. Anyway, so I have to shout out Eunice because every time I like was stressed and saw that costume, I started laughing on set.
I had the SNL fabricator create that costume, and it was so funny because when I first called him through a reference, he's like, "Is this a joke? Like, is this a joke? Like, I don't have time for this." And I went, "No, it's totally serious. I'm so sorry." And yeah, it was just really funny.
Oh, penis, someone else got so thank you.
Okay.
Maybe penis too, but you.
Well, I was gonna say, Io's like rant about the two. I told everyone. I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was gonna say. Because as you guys have mentioned before, it's like all improv. But also it's just like it comes at the perfect point in the beginning of the movie where like you're kind of like, what's it? You know what I mean? Like, and then when that happens, you're like, oh, like this is what this movie is. This is ridiculous. I'm in. And then like the music that kicks in. So that's it.
I have one. It's from the camp that was cut out of the film, but Rachel and Io had these shirts, and they said "Masturbator 1" and "Masturbator 2." And I love those shirts. And that was like the main reason I was so gutted it was cut from the film. I was like, no, the Masturbator shirts. It was so iconic. Our story that we've been
I want the other one. Bring it over too.
And then we had the sweatshirts as well that said lobotomy on them, which is the name of the camp.
I don't wear it out.
I can't wear it. It's humiliating.
I wear lobotomy all the time. People always kind of like look at it and laugh.
Last chance to shout out jokes.
The one that comes to mind right now is when I first like meet Io in the carnival, and Io starts to go on the "You're a Skinny Girl Too" rant, and I just remember being on the day just like close to pee myself because I just like all of her. I just love that scene so much. Just what Io does with it. And I don't think I say a word the whole time. I'm just supposed to be blank, but I had a hard time not laughing. But there are really so many. Not to be like so. I don't know. Everything's amazing about it, but like all of the jokes in this movie are so funny, and I can still watch it and think it's funny. And that's really Rachel and Io and Emma. Like just to. I put them on a totally unhealthy pedestal in comedy land because I just don't understand how they do that at all.
Mine's probably the like locker runner, and the like janitor interaction. I thought it was so funny every time, and then like when he's like disappointed in you guys, that got me. Yeah.
Okay, I just thought of a couple of favorites. Well, basically, when Isabel and Josie are in Josie's room, the delivery of "she's so" and "you're so," like we wrote it in the script, but how do you perform that? And the way Havana performed it was so funny, and the same with the "I love God," like all of it was so good, so good. Just those are two faves.
Oh yeah, all right, well we can kind of wrap it there. I feel like that, we got the furry stuff and I feel satisfied. Give it up!